All right, we're going to take a look at working with images and video in Dreamweaver. It goes along with Chapter 8 in lynda.com. So what's going on here is I've created a folder called Images and Video. I used underscores because I know this is going to go up on the server. So I made it all lowercase and all underscores just to make it easier once it becomes part of a URL. I pre-populated the folder with some images and video, and I'll make this available to you in Canvas so you can download this as a starting file. Okay. Now for this video, it's likely going to be warts and all. I'm trying some things here that that may go down in flames. So please bear with me. We'll troubleshoot it together, which is part of web design, right? All right. So let's open Dreamweaver. And let me close all of the practice stuff I got going on here. Alright, so first let's define a site. So under Files, we're going to go to Manage Sites, and I'm going to hit New Site, and I'm going to call this one Images and Video. And I'm going to go ahead and navigate here to that folder which I set on my desktop. Okay, and save. And done. Okay, we'll worry about, excuse me, we'll worry about the server settings later. Now, I didn't go through the extra step of creating a subfolder for my images or assets. They're all just hanging out in that site folder. So, sorry about that. All right, so what we want to do here is try to exercise a couple of different methods for dealing with photos and video, but I also want to show you some layout techniques along the way. So hang with me. We're going to learn a couple different things here. So let's create a new file, and this is going to be I'll call it let's call it butterflies. I have some images that I took from a butterfly pavilion out in Scottsdale, so I'm going to use that and just say create. And oh, it didn't. Okay, save as immediately as index.html, and we're going to put this in our images and video folder, which is our site root, and say save. Now it shows up over here. And then while that's open, we're going to go over here to CSS Designer and create a new CSS file that we're going to link to. We can call it styles. Not very original, creative. Okay. All right, so then if we pop over to files, we should see it there. We also see it over here. Now there's two of them open there, which makes me a little nervous. So I'm going to save all, and I'm actually going to close all of this and then reopen it. All right, now we're dealing with just the two items. That makes me feel a little bit better. Okay, first thing I want to do is we're just going to place an image on the page and look at how we can set its styles. We control its properties and we can set its styles, and then we'll do some more creative stuff after that. All right, so let's just grab an image. I was hoping to preview them, and I'm trying to remember where that's at. And I can't remember where that's at. I know it exists, I just don't remember it. Oh, insert under HTML. If we go to image, we get this menu where we can see we can actually see the previews of the items. So I don't know. I'll just grab this flower here, and we'll pop it on the page. And it is massive, right? The image is way too large, and so when you put it in there, it adds the native resolution in pixels to the HTML, and that's never my favorite thing because I like to control the height and width using styles rather than HTML. So I'd like to take the height and width right out of there, and I'm super tempted to just jump into the code and do that. But I did want to show you that you can control a lot of what's going on with your images with either the quick property inspector or the full-on property inspector. So if we click up here, if we click on this image, we get the quick property inspector button right here, and it shows us that this is the file name. There's no alt tag set up yet, and then here's the width and height. And so if I want to get rid of these in the HTML, I should be able to zero them out here, and you'll notice that the width and height disappeared from the HTML. Okay, and then for my alt tag, this is a picture of a flower. So I'll put that in to alt, and you'll notice that that content populates right here. Okay, so when I click away from the quick property inspector, it should disappear. You don't want to disappear? No? Okay, great. Hey, you go away. Go away. There it goes. All right, click there. Okay, so we still need to take care of the size here, right? So we're going to do it with styles. Just because I'm getting used to it, I'm going to drag this over until I get, oh, I got to click CSS Designer, until I get a 2-column layout for styles. I'm just getting used to dealing with it that way. And so here's my source, and so far I'm not doing anything for app media. I'm just doing global commands. And so I'm going to go in here. Now I know that eventually I'm going to have multiple images, and so I should probably put this in a container. I'm going to cheat right now and just create an image tag. It's going body image. That's cool. We'll just keep that. And for body image, you've got these properties, and so we can start with layout. And for layout, we can set the width. So let's set the width to maybe I don't know, maybe 600 pixels. Okay, which fits our screen just fine, and it'll help us to deal with stuff. So that's good. All right. Now my height, I could specify a height, but the thing with it is it will listen to you if you do. So if you specify a height that's not in proportion, then you end up with your image all stretched and garbagey looking, right? So if you know the proportions, great. If you don't know the proportions, then like I can tell you what the original is, but then I'll have to do math to figure out what it would be if I shrank it down, or go into Photoshop and shrink it down and save it in a shrunk format. So because it's not critical to my layout, I'm just going to get rid of the height, and that will mean that that the height is kind of set to auto, and so it keeps it in proportion based on the width. Okay. All right, so we got an image on the page, and then one thing I want to show you is that in addition to the quick property inspector, we can actually bring up the actual property inspector under here, under window, under properties. And right now mine's in a free floating bar. You can position it, if you get it just right, you can position it here. You can position it in different places, right? So whatever's comfortable for you. But when that image is highlighted, it tells us, well, here's a little preview, here's the file size, here is the file name. If we wanted to turn this image into a hyperlink, we could do it here. If we wanted to set a class or an ID on it, at least a class, we could do so here. It's not really what I want to do. But notice here you've got your width and height. So if I wanted to set my width and height in HTML, I would do so right here. And then if I did create a link, I could set the target. You also do have a quick link right here to Photoshop. So if you wanted to edit this on the fly, you could click Photoshop, do your edits. When you close Photoshop, the edits would already apply to the image in the page. There's not a lot here that I really want to take care of. Oh, here's where you set your ID, and here's where you set your class. There's nothing here in properties that I really want to take care of right now. I guess one thing that I want to point out about the property inspector or the quick property inspector is both of them impact the HTML associated with the image, not the CSS. So keep that in mind. All right. I'm sorry, I'm just taking a peek at my notes real quick. All right, let's do this. I'm going to get rid of this image altogether. Poop. Come on, delete. There we go. I'm going to hide my property inspector because I don't have need for it right now. And I'm going to actually get rid of this selector, right? And I want to show you a couple of techniques. One thing I want to do is start with responsive design. And so the idea of responsive design is that when you increase and shrink the size of the page, maybe if you're looking at a page on a desktop computer versus a tablet versus a phone, you know, the screen width changes. And so a good design, the page will shrink with the device, with the screen. And so that's called responsive design. So I'm going to show you a couple of techniques associated with that. Real quick, what I wanted to do was just create a 3-column format so that you can see a technique for responsive design for images in that kind of a format. All right, so in the body section here, I'm going to go ahead and insert some HTML. I'm thinking I'll use the section called section. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to style this so that it is 33% of the page. Now I learned some things from the lynda.com video from chapter 7, and there are some styles that will actually allow us to include padding of elements and the border of elements as part of our page width. So we don't have to say, okay, well I want it 33.3% because that's a third of the page, but then I have to account for my padding and I have to account for my borders and things like that when I'm dealing with that, right? So I'm not sure if I can do this in CSS Designer with preset tools. Let's see what happens. So I want to actually select HTML. This is the tag that I want to affect here, right? So in CSS Designer, I'm going to create a selector for HTML. Okay, and then for that selector, what I want to do is set box sizing. And I'm not sure that those tools are built in to this. So I'm just going to take a quick peek, and there's a box shadow. So I think this is where it would be if it existed in here, and since I don't see it in here, I'm going to use this tool, which is the More tool, which lets you type in things, right? So what I want to do here is do box sizing, and it should give me, the code hints, and I want to do border box. So what this style and value do for you is they will set up your page so that borders and padding are included in the total dimensions of the element. Okay, so I'm putting it on HTML because it's as high in the document as I can get. Okay, and then I also want to add a funky selector, which is star, comma, star, and within that I want to do star, comma, and then star before, and star after. Okay, and so basically the star is a wildcard, and it's saying apply this to everything, and star before and star after mean that if there's multiple elements like items in a list or things like that, it's going to apply it to the before and after elements as well, right? So for this, I want to do something similar. Enter. Yes. For this, what I want to do is I want to do box sizing again. Okay, but here I want to do inherit. And so what that's saying is everything needs to inherit the box sizing from the HTML tag, which means all boxes in the document will behave that way, right? And if I take a quick peek at the CSS over here, basically the ones that I care about are box sizing border box and box sizing inherit. So box sizing border box is on the HTML, and box sizing inherit is on the star dash star, star comma star for before and after. All right. Now, these other things, WebKit and Mozilla, what this is all about is that certain HTML5 tags were not universally adopted with all browsers right away. And so there were addendums that you could make to Firefox and Internet Explorer and Chrome. And so -MOZ is Mozilla, that's for Firefox. -WebKit, I can't recall if that's for Internet Explorer or Chrome, but the idea was you had to have these specialized prefixes in order to get it to work with browsers that didn't natively adopt it with HTML5. Nowadays, I think most of that is taken care of, and I might be brave and take off these two things and see if it still worked. They're really there for backup, just in case. So don't let that confuse you in any way. It's fine, right? All right, so I'm gonna go back to my source code. Now what I want to do is I want to create a 3-column layout. So I created this section, right? And so I'm going to create a selector for that section and body section. And I want to give this a width of percentage 33.33. Okay, enter. Now you'll notice that the box that indicates the width of section has shrunk to that width, right? While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and give this a margin, a color, a border color, and that's just because I want to I want to track what it's doing. I want to be able to see it while we're working with it, right? So I'm giving a 1-pick solid black. Okay, one pick solid black border, and so now you can see, should be able to see what happened. I'm just going to change this to black. Should be able to see that happening. Oh, this got broken here. There we go. Okay, sorry, I'm being distracted by these errors over here, and that's just because this word was broken and the errors hanging over from that point in time. Should be fine now. Anyway, so there's section. All right, now what I want to do is also in section, I'll go ahead and click in it so it becomes active here. Also in section, I want to float it. So if I scroll down here, here's float. I'm going to float this to the left, right? And then I'm simply going to add some more. So right here I can insert another section. We'll put that after, and another section, and we'll put that after. And one thing that didn't happen that I expected to happen is the float. So let's go back and take a look at that. Body section, float left. There it goes. Okay. All right, so now you'll see that all three of these sections, all three of these instances of section are 33 1/3 the width of the page, and they're all lined up next to each other. And what's wonderful about that is that because of that box sizing thing that we used, because of that, it doesn't matter that there's padding or border around it, right? So if I go to body section and in the layout section here, if I add some padding, we'll go ahead and lock that together, and we can make 10-point padding, 10 pixel padding all the way around. So now notice I've got padding all the way around this stuff. I've got border and padding, and yet it's not forcing one of the boxes off to the next line because of the box sizing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so we know it does that. Now what I'm going to do for a while is I'm going to focus in on one of the sections, and then I'm going to duplicate it after the fact. That's just to save me some trouble. Okay, so I want to pretend that there's considerable paragraphs here. So I'm going to highlight this text, and then I'm going to go up to Insert and put in Insert a Paragraph. And so now you can see that it wrapped that text in the paragraph tags. Okay, and then in the code, I'm going to put in a period and space, and then I'm going to highlight this, including the period and space, and copy it and paste it like 5 times. And so basically, I'm just creating a fake paragraph to fill that space. Okay. All right. Then what I want to do is, if I click on that paragraph, I want to insert a heading. Let's do a heading of size H3. And I want to put it before the paragraph inside section, so right there. Okay, that content is a bit long for me, so I'm just going to make this say example heading. Okay, that works. All right, and then now that I'm pretty much happy with that, I'm going to copy this entire section. I might as well clean it up first. Okay, I'm going to copy that entire section and rubber stamp it in these 2 locations. Okay, so now I got the same content going all the way through, right? So now what I can do is hide that border. CSS Designer, section, border. Oh, this is the border. Border, trash, trash, trash. Okay, so now there's no border. I still have a 3-column layout, but it's not bound by a border. And the whole point of this was to show you how you can get an image in there, and it will become responsive, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the border inside section, and then since section is set to 33% of the width of the page, as a percentage, the image will shrink and enlarge based on the total page width, because the section that it's bound by is going to increase and enlarge based on the total page width. Oh, that's a big explanation. Okay, so under Insert, I clicked on Paragraph, and then I'm going to click on Image, and it's going to ask me, do I want this before or after the paragraph? I want it before the paragraph. And then which image? So let's see, on my butterflies, I think I'm going to go with this one first, just because of the angle of it, and say OK. All right, and the image is massive. And the reason that it's massive is when it came in, once again, it set the HTML to the native size of the image, right? So in my property inspector, which I think is, yeah, tucked away down here, in my property inspector, I can take away the width and height, and they now disappear from that. And then I do want to put in an alt, which is hiding over here. Okay, I do want to put an alt, pretty butterfly. All right, so then now that our width and height are no longer there, which, by the way, I could have done the same thing with Quick Property Inspector. Let me tuck away properties again, and then under CSS Designer, widen this out so I get a 2-column layout for CSS Designer. I'm going to add in here body section image. You guessed that because the image was highlighted, and that is what we want. And then for body section image, I'm going to set the width to a percentage 100%. Now when you set it to 100%, it's setting to 100% of its container, and its container is called section, and section is 33 1/3% of the entire page. right? So now when I increase or decrease the page size, that image is going to grow or shrink with the page, which is awesome. Okay, so we'll just do that for all three. In this middle one, we'll insert an image. I think for this one, we'll do, I got a snake in here. Do the snake. Oh, and it's crazy sized. That's interesting that it did it that way, that it shows that way. But we'll go to the Quick Property Inspector. We'll take out the width and the height. And then for the alt tag, we'll put in coiled Python. Okay. And then, and it already knows to be 100% because the style is set to 100%. All right, and then one more time, click on that paragraph, insert an image. We'll put it before the paragraph, and we'll select this butterfly. Okay, same function here. Quick Property Inspector, take out the width, take out the height. Another butterfly. Okay, so now we have our images, and I'm going to go up here and save all. And then I just wanted to show you here, if we go to Quick Preview, let's say we open this, come on, if we open this in Chrome, for instance, here's this page in Chrome, and then if we shrink the page, trying to grab the corner, yeah, if we shrink the page, all these images grow and shrink with us, as well as the paragraphs. The headline doesn't have to do anything yet, but if I got too small, the headline would wrap too, right? So there's that. All right, just to copycat the Linda video, let's also just do a little bit more formatting with those images. So if I click on one of these images and go to CSS Designer, we can do a couple of fun things. Let's see, I think it is under the box. Yeah, under the box we can do border radius. So if we lock all of our four corners together and then give it a border radius of, I don't know, maybe 3 pixels. Okay. Oh, that's really hardly noticeable. So I'm gonna go bigger. Let's go maybe 15 pixels. All right. Okay, so now we got a nice little border on the picture. We could, I'm not a border, around corners. And then of course we gotta do shading, right? So I think it's under not under background, should be under box. And here's box shadow, right? Okay, so first thing is we want to decide what color of a box shadow to do. One thing I like to do is in this color picker, there's actually an eyedropper. So you can go up here and you can actually sample a color from the images. I'm liking, I guess, something that contrasts with the green because everything's got green. So maybe we do some kind of gray, some kind of greeny gray, right? That looks good to me. And it puts in the RGB value. And our friend on the video suggested that whenever we put in a drop shadow, whether it's on text or on an image, to drop the alpha channel. So this is RGBA, which is red, green, blue, and alpha. And so these are the values for each one of those colors, right? The values range from 0 to 256 for everything except for alpha. Alpha is like 1.0 would be 100%. So as we shrink this down, it's going to drop the percentage. And so if we get it somewhere in the 70s like this, what that means is that our shadow, the shadow color, is going to show at like 75% opacity. So that means it's approximately 25% transparent, and we could see the background through it. Now, we don't have a background color going yet, but if we did, it would be a more natural shadow. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and give it a little bit of shadow, not too much since it's close quarters here. And then tell it how much to blur, maybe 15 pixels. All right, so now you can see there's that nice subtle drop shadow behind it. Just kind of makes the picture look like it stands off the page a little bit. All right. So I'm going to stop here for a moment just because the video is getting long, and I'm going to do this in multiple parts so you can see different techniques in different parts. So the two techniques we saw in this video, the first technique was simply adding an image to the page and then controlling its width and height with a property inspector in HTML, or wiping them out in the property inspector so that we can control the width and height with cascading style sheets, the CSS designer. We also, in the property inspector and or the quick property inspector, were able to add or edit the alt tag. Okay. Then we did this 3-column layout, and the purpose in context of images for this 3-column layout was to show you this technique where you can make the image 100% width. The image itself is 100% width, but that's because it's bound inside a container, in this case section, and the section is a specific width. And both of those are a percentage of the overall page size. So as the overall page size changes, they shrink and grow in proportion. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop this video here, and we have another technique in the next video.